It's always the Carolina games. It's always the Carolina games. Let's go! Do you have a humiliation kit? This is all I ask you to do. I'm having a great finger flick. You're allowed to show up. This team is ruining my life. I'm taking crazy pills. With you, wherever you are, welcome to LFR. Leafs lose 6-3 to the Carolina Hurricanes, but on the bright side, it is only the second most embarrassing 6-3 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes over the last 5 years. Yes, that game was almost half a decade ago. There are only two guarantees in life. One, the Leafs are always going to choose the silliest path forward. And two, one day the sun will explode. The Toronto Maple Leafs just lost an actual National Hockey League game to a 36-year-old captain with 5 goals coming into this game. Which is appropriate because the Leafs had 5 straight wins coming into this game. And yeah, you're not going to win every single game, but this one was bad. Here's what I love about producer Drew, because he's a Colorado Avalanche fan, but he lives here. He lives in the greater Toronto area. So because of that, he's familiar with a lot of the Leafs' weirder idiosyncrasies, but he doesn't know necessarily the muck. So he's texting his brother. His brother is a Leafs fan, and he's making fun of him. He's taunting him, and his brother goes, yeah, Jordan Staal always beats up on the Leafs. Drew sent me to that like, is this true? And I go, I am positive that it's true, but can you look it up? And we did. Jordan Staal has played 25 career hockey games against the Toronto Maple Leafs and has 37 points in them! Over the course of his National Hockey League career, Jordan Staal has 696 points in 1,295 career NHL games. This dude has played so many games. Right now, I see you doing the math in your head. Don't worry, I'll do it for you. That is 0.537 points per game. A shade over 0.5. A shade over half a point a game. Jordan Staal's career points per game against the Toronto Maple Leafs is 1.48! Jordan Staal is nearly 3 times more likely to get a point against the Toronto Maple Leafs than he is against the other 31 teams combined! Listen, it's 2025, and with the new year, we've started looking at the last 25 years. The biggest whatevers of the 2000s. I'm sure you've seen the best Leaf team, the best Penguins team, and so on. Before the Matthews and Marner and Nylander era, there were some dark years in there for the Leafs, and there were a lot of Leaf killers. Jordan Staal might be the most underrated among them. Like Sidney Crosby. Oh, we don't want to play Sidney Crosby, but we really don't want to play Evgeny Malkin. The Sens had started to make a habit of making Leaf games more difficult, and then they went and got Claude Giroux. Jordan Staal? I hate it. I hate it a lot. And I also hate that the Leafs took what might have been their best start to any game this season and ruined it. Flushed it down the toilet, down the food compost, over their shoulder and into the woods. They threw it away through the first 8 minutes in their own barn. The Leafs kicked the Carolina Hurricanes up and down Raleigh. Steven Lorentz on a third line with Max Domi and Nick Robertson. He's gotten a couple looks on the third line the last couple games. He says, you know what? I'm going to be a bully. And he smashes and bangs and crashes in the corner. That allows Max Domi to get the puck. Max Domi sees what would be a low percentage pass opportunity for most people, but he's Max Domi. He finds Nick Robertson for a shot that might not have the greatest chance of going in, except it's Nick Robertson, and not just Nick Robertson, but Nick Robertson coming off of a healthy scratch. He is practically Mike Bossy in that situation, and he snipes it for his 7th of the season. Do you understand? Nick Robertson came into this game with more goals than Jordan Staal. Oh, life is pain. Life is pain. And then you know what happened? Let me tell you what happened. Is William Nylander got a breakaway? Oh, he didn't score on that one. But hey, look, he got another breakaway. Oh, he didn't score on that one. But look, he got another breakaway. I ran out of air. William Nylander bumps the slump. He hit a post. He got stopped on a breakaway. It looked like he was snake bitten on every inch of his body. And then he finally gets one. Tonight's gonna be a good night. That song sucks. Why do we all dance to it? The night's gonna... Every wedding I've ever been to, I'm like, why are we all having a good time right now? We shouldn't be. The song stinks. Carolina's given the Leafs a lot of trouble in recent years. And it's not just the 42-year-old Zamboni drivers. No, they have played very solid hockey against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the Leafs have caught them on a bunch of situations where it's like back-to-backs and they're on the road and like weirdly timed Sunday games. They got another one of those later this year. I wonder how they're going to do. This one, all things equal, you had a day off. It's just a regular road game. You're humming. You're the top of the Atlantic Division. You've won 5 straight games. And now look at this. Hey, maybe the Craig Berube Leafs are a little different, because Craig Berube's done a pretty good job at the Toronto Maple Leafs. This game is part of the reason why, if he asked for one, I would give Rod Brind'Amour a lifetime contract if I were the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes. Because whatever the Hurricanes were doing to start the game was not working. Forget a pass from Domi to Robertson that squeaks through. I mean, that's bad. It's not focused enough and whatever. The 3 Nylander breakaways is wild. Someone gets 3 breakaways on you in a span of, I think it was 9 minutes. Yeah, that player's really good, but you're probably doing something wrong. The adjustment was so stupid fast by Carolina. And it's the start of, I might as well just show it to you. Okay, so remember the other night, it was less than a week ago, the Leafs beat the Boston Bruins 6-4. And I think it was Matthew Nyes, Mitch Marner, and Austin Matthews were all at least +5, and I think 1 or 2 of them were +6. Remember that? That was fun. That was fun. That was a dominant night for that line. Do you want to see how they did tonight? I sincerely hope your fantasy pool did not include plus minus because, oh my God! Marner, Matthews, and Nyes all had a point in this one. Nyes and Marner with the assists and Matthews with the goal. Nyes was a really, really, really bad -5. But 2 guys who the Toronto Maple Leafs are paying a combined $24,153,000 were a combined -12! And even though combined plus minus is not a thing and it's kind of dumb, they were -6 each, which is also very bad. Dude, it's 1 goal and I'm like, oh. It's 2 goals and I go, oh. By 3, you're like, all right, they're slightly cooked. By the end of your night, you're like, this might be the worst game of any of their lives, including Matthews, who scored like a nice game-tying goal to make it 3-3, like halfway through the game, by the way. Let's go through all the goals. And I know it's just screenshots, but let's go through all the goals. Eric Robinson, very underrated player. He goes to the net! But I couldn't help but notice there are 2 Carolina Hurricanes in front of the net, 3 Toronto Maple Leafs, and both Hurricanes are completely all alone. And hey, there's a defenseman rushing towards the net. He's not one of those 3 guys. How did that happen? Okay, that's bad, but the Leafs are still up. Mistakes happen. Whatever. Get over it. You want to see the tying goal less than 20 seconds later? One of the Hurricanes wearing camo jerseys? What is this? Lot of puck watching, lot of guys not touching anybody in front of the net. And by the way, I met Jordan Staal. That is a big man. No. Don't go look at his height. Don't go look at his weight. That's a big man. But because he's a big man, that means you actually shouldn't avoid him. Because he's a big man, that means you should actually work harder to make his job hard. But just like the first goal the Hurricanes scored, there's a lot of straight legs there. There's a lot of guys not looking at other guys wearing different colored jerseys. And just like that, Leafs have their best start of the season, arguably, and it's gone. And all of a sudden, they're lucky to get out of the first period with a tie. They almost didn't. So, I praised Rod Brind'Amour, but Steve, how can you wax poetically about Rod Brind'Amour and the job he does when his team started the game so poorly? His job is to get the Hurricanes ready to play, and they clearly weren't ready to play in this game. Valid. Here's the thing about hockey. You get a mulligan. You get a couple, actually, sometimes 3. In this one, the Carolina Hurricanes score 35 seconds into the second, short-handed! The Toronto power play goes to work, and sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's William Nylander tripping over his own feet and leaving Mitch Marner to fend for himself and giving the Hurricanes a 2-on-1 in their own zone and allowing a 36-year-old man to score on them. Staal picks up his second of the game, and now the Leafs are down. Now, of course, Matthews scores on the power play, and he's very fired up about it, and why wouldn't he be? Hey, not everything's meant to be easy, right? You're up 2-0, you blow it, and then you go down in the game, but then you come back. Yeah, this is a good hockey game. It's a good hockey game, a good back and forth between 2 good teams. One little statistical thing that always ticks me off, the Leafs power play was technically 1-for-1 after that. No, you weren't. Well, they had 1 power play opportunity and they had 1 power play goal. They are 1-for-1. No, they weren't! You got scored against! What are you talking about, 1-for-1? Okay, fine. You're 1-for-1 with a goal differential of 0. How's that? How can you call it a successful power play if you get scored on? I've never understood that. Anyway, it's tied. It's tied. And we're all happy about it. And maybe, all right. It was a bit of a chaotic end to the first period, a very chaotic beginning to the second period. Now the game calms down. a little bit. It levels off, and oh no, you're just going to continue to play poorly. Jackson Blake just ho-hum driving the net, and this is essentially a breakaway. This is essentially, I know Oliver Ekman-Larsson is right there, but like, that is a free drive to the net and shot. Do you like a save there? I like a save anytime. I would like my team to always allow 0 goals. Joseph Woll did not have a great game in this one, and it should be said, the team had a worse one. By the way, of course the Carolina Hurricanes have a rookie who is playing well. Jackson Blake is a 4th round pick from 2021, and it frustrates me because I don't think the Hurricanes even looked at his stats when they drafted him. I think they interviewed him and they took one look at him and they went, "Hey, you're a Staal brother, right?" And he said, "No." "Yeah, you're like a cousin? Maybe you're the second cousin." I don't think I am, no. You don't know for sure. I've never tested, no. Okay, so you might be. From Thunder Bay? Fargo, North Dakota, there's a TV show. It's cold. It's somewhere cold. It does tend to, yeah. We're picking him, right? We're picking you. And unfortunately, that was the last time this game was close. At one point, the TSN broadcast showed that the Hurricanes had 5 more minutes of offensive zone time than the Leafs. Yeah, unless the game goes to like octuple overtime, that's inexcusable. 5 more minutes? Do you know how long a hockey game is? Generally speaking, not long enough that one team should have over 5 more minutes of ozone time than the other team, unless the team getting less time sucks. Okay, we head into second intermission. The Leafs are only down 1. They can win this game in the third. Rod Brindamore, in all his wisdom, went, "Okay, see how we scored really, really fast at the beginning of the last period?" They all go, "Yeah." "Okay, all right, I got a great idea. What if we don't take a penalty this time?" "Well, if we did that, we might score faster. These guys get it. Go get them. And they scored faster. The secondary assist was Jordan Martinook, who is 32. The primary assist and shot on goal was from Brent Burns, who is 39 and will be 40 in March. Goal tipped in by Jordan Staal, who is 36 and is allowed to do whatever he wants in the slot because the Leafs let him. It goes in. Joseph Woll all night facing clear shots, facing deflections, facing screens, facing poor coverage. Do you understand the combined age of the guys who scored the goal and got the 2 assists on the Hurricanes' 5th goal in this game? It's 107! Steve, is that actually true? No, it's not actually true, because if you add on the extra months, it's older! And then Seth Jarvis, who's 22, who let him in the building, scores the empty netter. Dude, unreal start for the Leafs. The final 50 minutes was some of the worst hockey they've played all season. At very minimum, it is some of the worst they've been outmatched all season. And this is the thing, and this is what makes it difficult for Leaf fans, because I've been getting messages like all the time, all throughout this winning streak of 5 straight games. What do you think of Riley? And what do you think they need to do at 3C? And I don't know about Ryan Reeves on the 4th line. And I'm like, guys, they've won 5 straight games. But people can't help that their focus is on the playoffs. Everything about this team, whether it's good or it's bad, especially if it's good, is, yeah, but can they do it in the playoffs? And then you get pancaked by a really good team in Carolina, and it kind of makes the last week and a bit feel like it never happened, which is not fair. It's not. It's a little ridiculous, but it's creeping in, and you can't tell me that a tiny little part of you doesn't feel that way. Questions. Are the Leafs in a position where the wins added by a peak deadline ad, Brock Nelson or Pajot come to mind, to this season's playoff team would outweigh the value of wins Easton Cowan or Fraser Minton earns over the course of their respected careers? Flags fly forever. Okay, so this is unfair to Easton Cowan and Fraser Minton, but the example I always go back to is Joe Nieuwendyk getting traded from the Calgary Flames to the Dallas Stars in exchange for a kid the Stars had just picked, and I think it was 9th overall. What was his name? Jerome McGinley. Jerome McGinley went on to have a Hockey Hall of Fame career. And the Stars didn't trade away a draft pick. No. They traded a human being with a name. This isn't how the Leafs traded the Hurricanes' Seth Jarvis. That's not really true. If the Leafs had drafted Seth Jarvis and gave him to the Hurricanes, that'd be one thing. But the Leafs gave the Hurricanes the draft pick that the Hurricanes used to select Seth Jarvis. The Dallas Stars knowingly scouted Jerome McGinley, drafted him because he was the best player available, and sent him to another team. They traded away a Hockey Hall of Fame captain with over 600 goals in his career. That should be, you lost, you were defeated, and you got murdered. Guess what? Dallas Stars win a Stanley Cup with Joe Nieuwendyk. That was the mission, wasn't it? There you go. That is an example of not caring because it worked out. That is also the exception to the rule. How many playoff teams load up at the deadline? The answer is usually closer to 16 than 0. And you know, it's the darndest thing. Like, Gary Bettman hasn't changed this about the NHL over his whole tenure as commissioner. Every year, the Stanley Cup champions are only one team. Now, if you trade away Easton Cowan and he goes on to have a really good career, but you end up getting to the conference final, is it worth it? Because you can never guarantee yourself a Stanley Cup win, can you? You can't. All you can do is give yourself the best chance. Here's the thing. It's so hard for me to get fired up about a trade like that because the Leafs, the best they've done in this era is 5 playoff wins. You need 16 for the Cup. The Leafs haven't even got sort of close. And what did they do? They loaded up. They trade the sun and the moon for Ryan O'Reilly. They then trade Jupiter and Mars for McCabe and Lafferty. And I think they got a few other pieces as well. Oh, they traded for Luke Shen. They essentially just didn't draft for a couple years. And they got 5 playoff wins out of it. 5! Ah! Listen, the Leafs don't have a desperate GM who is basically trading for his job like Kyle Dubas was. You do maybe have a president who has their job on the line in Brendan Shanahan, but Brad Treliving, he just got here. He just got here. I think he's cool. I think you reward this team with that kind of buy-in if they prove they deserve it. But, there's a lot of really important games left through the month of January, through February, after the Four Nation face-off. There's 2-3 weeks after the Four Nation face-off and before the trade deadline. And who knows what this team looks like. They've been riding Joseph Woll pretty hard. Anthony Stolarz is coming back. Austin Matthews looks great. Is that going to hold up? Are they going to get anyone back, like a Calle Yarncroke? I don't know. I guess to give an actual answer to your question, I am happier to trade away draft picks because they're magic beans than I am to trade NHL players or actual human beings like Fraser Minten and Easton Cowan. We know their names. We know what they're capable of. I know everyone's down on Cowan right now. I know that. He's going to play in the NHL. He's going to have an NHL career. Fraser Minten, we've already seen him play in the NHL. We like what we saw, didn't we? He's going to be an NHL player. He's going to have an NHL career. Draft picks, magic beans, guesses pissing into the wind, I'm happy to trade those away. Actual dudes with a name is harder. Is the Connor Timmins experiment over? I was surprised to get this tweet because a lot of guys had bad games in this one, and Connor Timmins was not one of them. Bad moments, maybe. Yeah, definitely. But he was the only defenseman who was a plus in this game. He was a +1. And on top of that, 2 shots, 4 blocks, 5 hits. Dude, how about this from Morgan Rielly? -3, 2 penalty minutes. He played under a minute more than Connor Timmins. He had 1 shot, 1 block, no hits. Actually, 3 Leafs defensemen played more than Morgan Rielly in this one. What is going on? Not Timmins I'm worried about. He's not my favorite, but I'm not worried about him. I will say this. I would be willing to give another Leaf a look. I'd like to see Marshall Rafai get in the games. In light of Toronto allowing a shorty, would it be a good idea for the NHL to adopt the jailbreak goal rule from the PWHL? Okay. So basically what happens there is, let's say it's the Scepters. They get a power play, and the Ottawa Charge took a penalty. They slashed you. If the Ottawa Charge, on their penalty kill, score a goal, the Toronto Scepters power play is over. It's a cool rule. It's exciting. It's kind of fun. But let's say it takes 15 seconds, right, for the team on the penalty kill to score a shorthanded goal and jailbreak, get their person out of the penalty box. Okay, well, what if what they're in the box for is boarding? or checking from behind, or they two-hand slash someone. Like, the whole reason you were put in there is because you're being punished for doing something that's against the rules. And all of a sudden, if your team scores a shorthanded goal, it's fine. It's a weird one. What about like a compromise rule where if your team scores a shorthanded goal, they get to play 5-on-5, but you still have to serve the remainder of your minor? I don't know. And lastly, to everyone who wanted exciting Leafs games back, happy? Yeah. This game was exciting, and this is exactly what you don't want to see out of this team. Tonight's Leafs team is not the kind of team you invest in. It's not the kind of team you trade draft picks or prospects for. It is not the kind of team you expect to do anything. So I tell you what, you won 5 straight. You had 1 stinker on the road against a good team. Saturday night, you're at home. You're going to be rested. You're going to be playing the Vancouver Canucks, who are reeling. One of JT Miller or Elias Pettersson is going to get traded. They have multiple injured players. They have Quinn Hughes, who was having a Norris caliber season until he got injured, and he's returned to the lineup with some sort of splint on one of his fingers. They're playing 3 games in 4 nights. You are the 3rd game in 4 nights. You are the second half of a back-to-back at the end of a long road trip far from home. Leafs got to win that game, man. You got to win that game. The schedule is hard, and the schedule is not fair to everybody. And this is an example of the schedule favoring the Leafs. They got to run the Canucks out of Toronto on Saturday. Speaking of which, I am going to be doing a stream on Saturday on the SDPN YouTube channel. Please check it out because that game after this one ought to be good. For now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. CJ Show live in Coburg, January 17th. Hope to see you there.